Hi, welcome back. This is Liam and doing another video on the shoulders, particularly releasing shoulder tension through better awareness access to your feet. And I mean that in the most kind of garden variety way. You could think of awareness as in anything. You don't need to manufacture it, or this isn't about conjuring up anything special other than if someone punches you in the arm, you're very aware of your arm, right? So I'm talking about that kind of awareness, that just like knowing in a felt sense way about your feet, legs, and pelvis, and how that can help release shoulder girdle tension in a way that, I'm making this video because I think it often goes very the connection goes unnoticed as much as everything is connected, blah, blah, blah. Right? But there's a very immediate connection between our foundation and this part of us. And we could, talk about, and there would be like maybe different theories on why that happens. A couple things. One, I see that connection a lot in this office. I felt that connection very profoundly in my own body, some old shoulder trauma, releasing through better access through the ground. And I'll show a couple exercises here that you can do with this. And largely, this is just a sort of principle that you can play with. And anything you're doing with your feet, that is to say, pretty much anything you're ever doing in standing, can be part of that awareness exercise. So whether it's walking, or yoga or CrossFit or something, a little more or a lot more emphasis on your foundation, and seeing how that, if and how that affects tension in your upper body. To think of this sort of non-physiologically, or more to tell it as a story, you can think of if you were the shoulder girdle, if you were this upper traps, lower neck neighborhood, if you were part of a body that you didn't know you were resting on the ground, there's a of course you would be tense all the time. You would have this low grade tension if you didn't kind of know the ribs, know the pelvis, know the feet in that way that a body knows itself through feeling. There's one other thing I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, the difference between hover. I've used this example before, but if you were to hover, a quarter millimeter above a chair versus sitting in the chair, right? How in terms of range of motion, that's pretty much nothing. But in terms of soft tissue tone and your experience, those are two radically different things. So you can think of a lot of our shoulders are kind of hovering, and we're like, I need to relax and pull my shoulders down and depress and retract my scapula. And that can be all fine and good. And if those are kind of seeds we're planting, what's beneath us is the soil that's holding that. So a couple thoughts on how you can do that in the here and now. One is, if you have a tennis ball, I don't know if you could see this the whole time, but setting that down, you may have done this or seen it done, where I'm really any part in this part of my foot, you kind of can't go wrong, honestly. But using the tennis ball to putting it underfoot, translating weight over, and then I'm doing sort of slow movements where I'm pouring my weight onto this leg. I can bend my knee, both of my knees, straighten and stand. But for this particular exercise, use this as an awareness piece about your, kind of how you're holding yourself. As I see people do this, not a lot, but I've certainly seen it done where I'm like rolling out the feet, and I'm exaggerating here, but where this and I'm still head and shoulders, and my foot is down there doing this thing. So use the tennis ball as an impetus, or I don't know if that's the right word, catalyst, invitation, as a thing you use to kind of get to feel your weight as a whole body. Yeah, if I were to really stick my hip out far or, do something kind of contorted, I could get a sense of what that break is like, or really tense my chest and my breathing. Again, I feel like there's this cutoff from my feet. So I want to release. Doesn't mean you just fall over, right? There's still effort in standing, but as little as you can get. I'm pouring weight down through that foot. Bending my knees a little bit, lots of opening up through the plantar fascia and through the muscles of the feet. But using this again, today we're kind of playing with how that affects shoulder tone. If I feel this pain impetus, and I'm exaggerating again, right? But if there's sort of this holding myself here, and I let this travel up, find me, and have my shoulders knowing. It's sort of a funny way to say it, but it's true. My shoulders knowing that they're on top of these feet and legs. Of course, do both sides, maybe a little walking before and after to get a feel of your feet. The other thing that you might play with, I'll keep my pants rolled up, is in standing, going through a process of leaning back on your heels and then leaning forward onto the balls of your feet. And doing this slow and a few times and paying a lot of attention to what you're experiencing on the inside, again, especially through this sort of upper thoracic, cervical, shoulder girdle. And is there a spot that feels kind of like a sweet spot where your shoulders, where this all becomes one line? And notice, and I think this is really important, that I'm not talking about, get aligned, right? Which can be a fine cue, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm not saying, get your head over your okay, now my shoulders should be relaxed. Maybe they're not. So go ahead and get, out of alignment. Get back. And if you're really resting through your bony body here, and then coming forward like you're a ski jumper, ankle dorsiflexion, going forward, you feel the muscular sort of soft tissue body light up. So back and forth with those two and feel how this affects your chest, shoulders, and breathing. If I was really leaning here, it's hard. If I go too far back, it's hard, and there's this kind of neck, shoulder tension thing happening. So see if there's a sweet spot where your feet kind of light up, your arches light up, and that kind of sends a signal up into your shoulders, into your whole body, of course, but we're talking about the shoulders. This kind of, it's not very fun to watch, but it's cool to do. Sends that message that, I don't know, I wasn't sitting on a chair. That you're on top of a foundation that's not solid, not a stack of bricks, but is solid in the sense of there's this energetic connection to our beautiful planet. All right, I hope that's helpful. And any questions, as always, shoot me a line and I will hopefully see you again soon.